Good morning. The week is going so very, very fast. I found a scripture this morning in my daily Bible reading, and it's from Mark 4, verse 22, and it says, "Whatever is hidden away will be brought out to the open, and whatever is covered up will be uncovered." This morning, I want to share a little bit of a prophetic insight with you on some things that God's been telling me. I truly believe that right now we're in a season that I believe is what I would refer to as the whirlwind of God. Years ago, God asked me to write a book, and um, He was telling me the titles of them. And it's odd that the two book titles that He gave me were The Whirlwind of God and Charting Global Waters. And those of you that know me know that I've not written either one of those. So I'm still believing God that He's going to talk to me about the whirlwind of God and charting global waters. And so recently He has begun to unfold the things about the whirlwind of God. And what He's talked to me about is that when a whirlwind comes, anything that is not connected to the ground, or anything that's loose, or anything that doesn't belong, or even things that do belong, sometimes are stripped away, and you can see underneath what was there all along. But the whirlwind of God would like uproot a tree, it would move a house, it could do a lot of things, and it could expose a lot of things. And so I began to feel as though there was a whirlwind of God that came into my own life. And it was beginning to expose some things that I really didn't know were there. He was beginning to define things that I had always questioned. And so as this whirlwind was going through my life, I have some close friends and people that I talk to, and that's what's happening in my life. Like, it seems like I'm experiencing this whirlwind of God. And it wasn't just lay people, it was ministerial people, it wasn't just individuals, it was churches, it wasn't just singles, it was married people. And so I believe this scripture here in Mark 4:22 that says, "Whatever is hidden away will be brought out into the open, and whatever is covered up will be uncovered." And that's not always on purpose, but it is in God's purposes and God's timings. And so some of the things that I had exposed in my own life was I was realizing I was experiencing what I have come to understand are triggers. People would say something and it would trigger me, in that I would become highly anxious, or I would become real quiet, or I would just disappear. Seriously, I would. I'm believing I'm understanding the term to be, I would disassociate. And so taking a class, the whirlwind of God came through and exposed some things that I never dreamed would ever be exposed, nor did I feel that there was a need to. And so I'm reading a book a week for 10 weeks. And I've been sharing some of the books with you. One that I just shared the other day with you was this one called The Emotionally Absent Mother: How to Recognize and Heal the Invisible Effects of Childhood Emotional Neglect. And some of the other ones that I'm reading right now, and I'm doing them one at a time, I promise, because I'll be quoting many of them in my book that will prayerfully be out by September of 2021. But if it's not till September 2022, I'm not going to be upset. I'm going to go in God's timing, in God's pace. But the truth doesn't have to hurt. Some of the other book titles that I've been reading are by John Bradshaw, Henry Cloud. If you'll take a look over here on my shelf, you'll see several books. Maybe you can zoom in on that later, take a screenshot or something. But those are some books that I'm reading. And I'm learning that life doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be all work and no play, that you can reward yourself. that it's okay to be who you are. And maybe in being who you are, you can help people become who they are. And so there are a lot of books. I'm not sure exactly what maybe you deal with. Maybe you deal with fear. Maybe you deal with anxiety. Maybe you deal with abandonment. Um, a very good friend and one of our pastors in our association just wrote a book on condemnation. So maybe condemnation is your issue. If it is, I would suggest that you go to teresaverdecchio.com and order her book, Crushing Condemnation. It came out number one in its category just about a week ago. But Crush Condemnation. And one of the quotes that she uses that I often use myself is, "It may not be your fault, but it is your fight." And I love that because so many people are fighting things that are not their fault, but it is your fight. And once you learn to fight the good fight of faith, once you uncover the things that need to be uncovered, you can teach other people how to fight. And I don't know about you, but when I get a victory, I want it to be everybody's victory. I'm the kind of person that goes to Cheesecake Factory, and if my food's really good, I'm like, "You gotta taste this. Like, here, take your fork and stick it in my plate. Just don't eat on your fork first, okay? But take your fork and take anything you want off my plate. Like, I want you to taste it. It's so good." And that's the way I've always been with God, or I've always been with anything that's really good. Or if I get a revelation, I want to give it to you. I want you to have it too. I mean, life is about, there is an open heaven, and anything that He gives me and I can wait, that's open to get more. So I hope that you let the whirlwind of God come through your life and take away everything that's not supposed to be there, expose what needs to be exposed, and then take your trophy, girl. Take your trophy, you men, and share it with the world. Let them hold it, let them smell it, let them touch it, and let them know they can get theirs too. See you tomorrow.